Welcome back to a brand new TV show spoiler review here at Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Dinneberg, and today I am breaking down the first three episodes of season four of the Prime Video original show, Invincible. Usually on these big spoiler reviews, I will be breaking down Invincible every single Wednesday. I only pushed this to Sunday because I just haven't had time to get it and finish this review. But usually I'll break down particular things in the episode, like 5 to 6 major elements. These are three episodes I'm breaking down here, so I'm going to do my general spoiler reviews. Again, if you've not seen the first three episodes of season four of Invincible, or really anything involving Invincible, this is my final warning that I'm going full spoilers. So if you guys are new to the channel, Invincible is one of my favorite shows of all time. Definitely a top three show for me ever. And I love season one, near perfect season. Season two, I thought was very good. It wasn't like unbelievable television. And I thought season three was also really fantastic. So I was excited for obviously season four. And I think we're off to a really strong start with these first three episodes. So in episode one, we catch up back with Mark and the family. And Mark is still trying to get over what happened with him at the end of episode of season three. He's trying to take care of his brother Oliver, who is aging up, as we know, very quickly here. But we have new villains, or kind of same villains, with the Sequoids being a factor here in this very first episode. Eve is also, we're figuring out now, is starting to lose her powers for a mysterious reason in this episode. We find out what that is in episode three. Mark also goes to dinner with Eve's parents in episode one, and obviously, Eve's dad is still a piece of garbage. He's just not a great human being, clearly. And we get the conversation with Mark and Eve's dad, where basically, he's like, I don't like that she's one of you people, but I will say the only two times that she's been near death or in a hospital for weeks has been trying to save you. And Mark obviously puts all responsibility really on everyone in his life on himself. And I think what separates this show from any content, especially superhero related content, is you really feel like these characters are actual human beings who have causes and effects and have consequences for their actions, good or bad. And this first three episodes does that in the world of, from the superhero version in these first three episodes, we have the same villains from the other seasons. What this season is trying to teach us is sometimes good or bad, in order to kill off something, you really have to really do it permanently. And Mark does that towards the end of this episode. Because we do get the Sequoids, we still get those alien invasion in episode three. These are the same villains we've had. It's really because we've had a lot of, the characters have had a lot of restraint. They're heroes, they're trying to, symbolize something. And Mark knows that nothing can really be finished off without doing something permanently. Like he almost permanently kills that guy who turns into the dragon at the beginning of this episode. And then he realizes this guy doesn't know really what he's doing. Luckily, the Guardians of the Globe help stop him. But Mark feels very off the chain, as they say. Like he kind of feels like he needs to be a little bit controlled, or not controlled, but at least talked to slow him down. And again, Mark is such a fascinating character. He yells at Oliver for not wanting to help save people at the beginning of this episode. And Mark then realizes towards the end of the episode, this guy's also a kid. And, to yell at him like that and to push him like that was not very nice. And Mark finally realized that, apologized to Oliver. Because Oliver, as you can tell in these episodes, really does look up to Mark. Doesn't, he looks up to his father. We get that costume scene with Art, and we get the flashback with Debbie and Nolan. But it's really, Oliver looks up, obviously, wants to be his own person, not be in his father's shadow, but also believes in Mark as a person. I think that's really important for Mark to have in his life. He doesn't just have his mom, he also has his really amazing girlfriend in Eve. He also has his brother, Oliver. And even though Cecil and him are not always on the same page, Cecil, I think for the most part, does believe in Mark and doesn't see that Mark will turn into his dad. But again, Cecil can't bet on personal feelings. He has to bet on the safety of everyone. The big thing that happens in this episode is the very end. We have this whole sequoid battle. They're trying to contain all the sequoids so they don't get out and they become a bigger problem than they already have before. And obviously, they're controlling actual human beings. So, actual human beings are like getting involved, but they're not knowingly involved. They're being controlled by the aliens and they're trying to save all the humans, but also getting rid of the sequoids at the same time. But it looks like it's about to burst, and Mark punches through Russ, who is the main astronaut who got infected in season two, if I'm not mistaken, and punches him right through his head and kills him. And it destroys all of the sequoids. We think it's over, but Mark just killed an actual human being, and that has lasting effects for episode three. My favorite episode, though, guys, here was episode two, which was the Omni Man and Alan episode. So obviously, Alan helped Omni Man break out of the prison. Now, Omni Man's plans to help the Alliance get rid of, at least at first, to get rid of the Viltrumites. So in this episode, they have Omni Man and Alan meet with Thaddeus, who is the one running, who's voiced by Peter Cullen, who runs this coalition. And we get this, at the beginning of the episode, we get this whole flashback scene to young Nolan, where he's training all these kids. He grabs a girl by her hair. It was really intense. And then he turns a certain age and he has this whole fight scene with his parents. His mom calls both of them wussies, and they're beating the ever-loving crap out of each other. But this sets up the big emotional part of the episode for Nolan, which is all of his people almost are on the brink of extinction after this virus gets put out into Viltrum. And all of these people are dying. We realize that the ring around the planet is not a ring, it's just 7 billion Viltrumite bodies that are left surrounding the planet. Like, really dark, but inventive and creative things that I, again, just love about the show. Nolan obviously survives this, but even though he knows that his people are down to like 50 people left, and that's still a lot of powerful people, he knew that they were, again, billions of people is who he grew up with. And even though he's against Viltrum and is against the Viltrumites, it still appalled him seeing that many people die, and of his own people. So Nolan has this scene with the person who, at first, he just thinks is the guy who turned his back on his race, but it turned out this is the guy who actually set up the virus towards the end of the episode. So the plan is Omni-Man was going to help Alan get all of these weapons, people who have been thorns in the Viltrum side, who can exploit the weaknesses of Viltrumites. But again, Nolan keeps saying, I'm here to help you get all of these things. I'm not fighting the war with you physically. So then we get we get all these scenes. We get the really hilarious bit where every time Nolan's trying to sleep on this awful ship, Alan and his girl are going at it, let's just say. And it's a really funny gag that they never stop going back to. And it was funny each and every time. We get some really cool voice cameos with Winston Duke and Tatiana Maslany as well, who's in these episodes. Some really cool cameos, including Denai Garai in the first episode of this season. But we end with this big point where, finally Thaddeus reveals himself as he was the person. He's concocting a new version of the virus. Obviously, Nolan was like, how did you create this? And he says, I'm the person who set off the virus in the first place, and this will really destroy all the Viltrumites. And Nolan goes crazy on him. And even Thaddeus is like, if you think this is justification to kill me, you're more than welcome to do so. But Nolan does not. And again, Nolan says this has to be a worst case scenario. If you guys are really struggling with the weapons, if we're really struggling killing them, this needs to be the worst case scenario option for the situation. But then Thaddeus says, where are you going? And Nolan says, I'm going to get my son. So we left on that cliffhanger. I am so excited for the reuniting of Nolan and Mark, and obviously Nolan and Oliver, but really the Nolan and Debbie interactions, what I'm really fascinated in. Because we go to episode 3, but again, Debbie's becoming very close with Paul, to a point where Paul wants to move in with Debbie. They're both cool with it, but now Paul's trying to get a new house and start fresh with Debbie. And obviously, there's a lot of memories for Debbie raising really both kids in this house and seeing if that's a good option. Debbie, another, could be such a one-note forgettable character in such a larger-than-life show. But again, they humanize everyone, and she is such a fascinating character to watch in this show. So, episode three, we get the big meeting with Mark and Cecil, which I thought was really great, especially when they're trying to hold back Ezra Miller's character, who he voiced in season two. I don't remember Ezra Miller's character's name, but he's the scientist who's creating all the Invincibles who died. He's trying to put them in those mechanic outfits. And I loved when, obviously we learned in the post-credit scene of episode one that Conquest got away. We meet Throg, sorry, in the post-credit scene of episode two with Lee Pace voicing him, the guy who's now currently running the Viltrumites, which I thought was a really great scene. But in this episode, Mark and Steve love the conversation. I love when Donald walked in and was like, "Didn't you tell Invincible that Conquest got away?" And Cecil's like, "If you really want my job, Donald, all you can do is ask." I thought that was such a funny back and forth between Donald and Cecil. As always, again, now at this point, Eve is completely useless at this point, power-wise. She's trying her best to do things. She's not. So the big arc of the episode is with Titan and Machine Head. Once again, Titan still has a problem with the old dragon guy who keeps trying to make his way into these episodes. Titan's family was almost killed off, so he calls Invincible Inc. Instead of Invincible going this time, so Invincible can be with Eve. Oliver goes, not knowing that it's going to be of Titan and dragging in his family into another problem. At the same time, the new alien invasion happens again, the more powerful. Mark goes to help with that. Once done with that issue, towards the end of the episode, actually, excuse me, Robot and Monster Girl go to the alien world, just like Nolan did, to try to kill all of them. But then Robot and Monster Girl are stuck in a different universe, in a different world, different planet. So we have that big cliffhanger as the Guardians of the Globes are now kind of split off. At this point, Mark then goes trying to help Oliver with Titan, and he basically beats Titan almost to death. And because Mark's like, "You cannot bring my family down into your stuff ever again," and Titan's like, "I'm just trying to save my family too." But this breaks both the old man, the old Japanese guy, and Titan go back to Machine Head and join that crime organization once again. So now you have all of those guys running roughshod over the area. But the biggest plot twist revelation we've learned so far this season is the post-credit scene of this episode, which is, Mark wakes up, Eve's in the bathroom, and we learn that I guess the reason why her powers aren't working is Eve is pregnant, which sets up a huge cliffhanger ending to this episode. What does that mean? What kind of powers will this kid have? So many things. Mark is still a young guy at this point. They're both very young, obviously, Mark and Eve. So a really fascinating cliffhanger. I don't know how they move forward with this, but I love the show. It's violent, it's gory, but it still humanizes everyone. Everyone feels like genuinely real people. There are causes and effects. There are consequences for everyone's actions. It is a great world building as well, and there's so much emotional depth here from all of the characters that makes this, again, still one of my favorite shows of all time. So again, usually for the next episodes, which are obviously 5 more episodes we're getting left here in the season. I'll be breaking down the full episodes, give more of my thoughts episode by episode. I try to do my best to give general thoughts on these first 3 episodes. If you like videos like these, guys, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, would mean a lot to me. Like this video, comment your thoughts on these first 3 episodes of Invincible. Are you liking it? Are you not liking it? And I'll see you guys in another video very soon.